fresh off the heels of possibly retiring Brock Lesnar, Oba Femi was back on Raw this week, taking on Grayson Waller.
And I have thoughts on how the WWE and TKO handled the releases last week.
Stay tuned for that. Let's roll the intro and let's talk about it. All right, we are back. Jeff?
Yes, sir.
We need to keep these videos shorter.
Let's keep them short.
Let's not ramble as much.
Alrighty, bud. I'll try to do my best.
Now.
And here I have a list of stuff to start with. Alrighty. Well, topic one, we're going to start talk about the releases that were announced last Friday during SmackDown. Some of the notable names released: Aleister Black, Kairi Sane, Zelina Vega, Santos Escobar, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, and the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Before I go into my thoughts, do you have anything you want to say on any of those names?
Well, I did a hot take on this when the releases happened.
Yes.
Yeah, I was trying to be kind in my hot take, even though my hot takes are meant to be disruptors,
yes.
I guess you can say. But yeah, cutting Aleister Black for me, I know a lot of people are bigger on the Kairi Sane part of it, which I also think was awful. They shouldn't have done that either. Yeah. But to me, Aleister Black, just prior to WrestleMania, beat Sami Zayn and beat Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And both of which went on to WrestleMania to have matches.
Yes.
Both titles involved.
Yeah.
And wasn't Black also, he did an ambulance match with
Damian Priest,
yep.
Yeah.
So he was active, and he was like main card active. He wasn't even like mid-tier, even though he was kind of used as a mid-tier talent. Up until WrestleMania, he was used in major matches.
Yeah. And to that point, before the Pat McAfee insertion, he was supposed to be in Randy Orton's corner. He was supposed to be the justification or the push that turned Randy heel.
Yeah. So
where would we be had he been a part of that match?
It would have been a much better match, I tell you that. Yeah. I don't know if the match would have been better, but the story,
the build-up would have made more sense.
The build-up would have been better.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, it was, I don't know, bizarre move. I don't know.
So real quick on that. So not only, is the releases making news, but how it was handled made some news. Corey Hayes of Body Slam reported that WWE superstars who released on Friday were informed of their departures directly by TKO, not by WWE. This was supported by Zelina Vega revealing on a video call at about 5 o'clock last week that she received a call about 5 o'clock from TKO. And this is a distinct change from previous internal WWE processes where creative would handle these. And then over the weekend, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com said in his report that Triple H, Nick Khan, and WWE talent relations were ultimately the primary decision makers, and that WWE sources indicated that the majority of releases were to make way for the new talent coming up after WrestleMania. So if creative made these decisions, why weren't they the ones delivering the news? I've been a manager in different roles for 20 plus years. And when I've had to get rid of people, I've had HR and management support, but I was the one to deliver the news. I didn't,
The only thing I can think of would be because Triple H has been under fire. I mean, people are just, everybody, IWC, other, wrestlers, everybody are kind of targeting him right now. Maybe they did it to try to save his face a little bit. So, okay, he's not necessarily the bad guy, even though he was probably the one who picked out who was going to get cut. I imagine someone higher up said, hey, here's a budget. You need to be below this budget. Cut what you need to cut to get below that budget. And then they probably just went through the roster and were like, okay, we're not really using this person so much, whatever. The Aleister Black being cut from that storyline,
yes,
probably is what they're probably like, okay, what do we do with him now?
Yeah.
But I know you're, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was waiting, go ahead. Okay. No, I was just going to say we're ready to move on to the next topic. We said we were going to ramble.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Go ahead, finish your topic.
This is some stuff I wanted to put in the hot take, but missed it. Yeah. Because I was trying to be friendly.
Don't be friendly, be Joe.
No, I don't want to be called out again. So look at the people that got released. The main ones, anyway. I know there's some NXT people who maybe they're great. I have no idea. I just wasn't familiar with some of those. But like Kairi Sane, Aleister Black, Motor City Machine Guns.
Those are probably the big four.
Yeah. Was there another one?
Santos Escobar hasn't been around in a while. Apollo Crews has been injured on and off. So.
Yeah. But so you cut these people Kairi Sane and Black, I'm going to use those specifically because they're both involved in current storylines. You're going to hate me for this, Jeff. Why do we still have Akira Tozawa on the roster? Why do we still have Otis on the roster? When I know people like Otis and I know people like Akira Tozawa, but they're doing even less.
Yeah.
Why do we have the Pirate?
Oh, the Pirate. I was like, Kairi Sane was the Pirate.
Oh, you're right, but the Pirate Tongan.
Yeah.
Why do we have him still?
I don't know the nature of their contracts.
JC Mateo.
Maybe their contracts are up in 6 months and they're going to let these guys go. Maybe, I don't know the contract structure. All I know is I read all these contracts were coming up and they decided not to renew them.
And I'm not saying that thinking, oh, these guys need to be fired to keep. No, I'm not saying that at all. I don't want anybody to get fired, right?
Yes.
But I'm just looking at when they made these cuts, they cut people currently in storylines and kept people who aren't really. You can say, okay, well, Pirate Tonga is in the MFTs and they were doing something.
Yeah.
But
well, So I appreciate you doing on that. And I'm going to, one last thing before we move on. I've often said to people, if you're going to complain about something in a top 10 or a list or whatever, be brave enough to say what needs to come off. So you saying that they need to keep Kairi Sane and keep Aleister Black and now get rid of these guys takes more guts than saying they need to keep those guys, but I don't want anybody else going either. Because cuts need to be made.
Well,
and if you're going to criticize something, give a solution or give a thought process on who you need to go and say. So I think that, I like the fact that you threw out other names, even though I may disagree with those names.
But
you
at least threw out names. Use more? Kairi Sane and Aleister Black or Akira Tozawa and Otis?
Yeah, Akira Tozawa and Otis haven't done anything important in months, if not years.
Yeah,
so.
And and they're trying to build their tag team division, so they cut Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, who, to be fair, Motor City Machine Guns, when I saw them in Detroit, the crowd was pretty much asleep.
Yeah.
The guys are super talented. They just didn't have I don't know if it was a gimmick, but it seemed like they were trying to do like they're fighting with each other gimmick. I don't know. And whatever happened to Johnny Gargano? Anyways, all right.
All right, real quick. Obviously these cuts, as I mentioned, were made to make room for new talent. You've only got so many hours of TV a week. There's not as many house shows. You can't just have people on the roster that aren't getting used. So they're making room for the new guys. We had some more call-ups this week. They've announced that Ricky Saints is going to be joining, I think, SmackDown. Fatal Influence, JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Lainey Reed joined SmackDown last week. We saw Ethan Page and Joe Hendry on Raw again last night. And then Blake Monroe, I think, cut a promo on SmackDown last week. So out with the older wrestlers, in with some of the newer wrestlers. Do you have any thoughts on the newer wrestlers brought up? Oba Femi's been a big hit. Javon Evans has been a big hit. Trick Williams. Does anybody on this list, do you think can kind of live up to their hype so far this year?
It's going to be hard to live up to like Trick Williams and Oba Femi hype. And I'm not sure. Probably the closest, and from what I know of them, would be Joe Hendry or All Ego Ethan Page. But Joe Hendry more so. But Ego Ethan Page is really good. I'm not sure. He's just he doesn't have like a huge gimmick. Like his gimmick is he's egotistical, right? I mean, that's it. So hopefully that gets over. I think all the guys they brought up are good. The Fatal Influence group, they seem like a budget damage control.
Yeah, budget damage control, but damage control's gone. And they don't really have any true heels in the women's division that kind of inspire hate right now.
Jade Cargill.
Well, people boo her. People boo them out of boredom. Nobody are really intensely booing even Nia Jax and Lash Legend. But the heat that JC Jane and the Fatal Influence pulled out on SmackDown last week, they interfered in a couple matches. They called out Rhea Ripley. There was a match that ended in a DQ. But that was heat. It felt like genuine heel heat that I haven't felt in a few months since like Dirty Dom when he was at his worst. Like they were booing so heavily and so intensely that the women couldn't even talk on the mic. And I don't think it was out of boredom. I think that was legitimate heel hype.
See, I don't. I think they were maybe not booing out of boredom, but I think it was to me, and I don't really know the three women that are involved. I know I've heard of JC Jane and I know she was a big deal in NXT. Very unfamiliar with the other two.
Yeah.
But to me, it seemed like they were like, get off, just go away. See, it seemed like go away heat more than boo heat. Because people get booed. Now the crowd's everywhere. That's kind of like instead of what. Now they just boo as loud as they can. So to kind of rattle the wrestler in the ring.
Yeah,
I don't think that really means anything. I think that's just the crowd just trying to be jerks at that point.
Yeah, but
in a good way.
I've seen the way the crowd booed Pat McAfee when they wanted him to go away. The way they booed Jelly Roll when they wanted him to go away. This was a more intense, angry boo, again, like Dom used to get every time he would try and talk on the mic. And again, the follow-up, like I was talking to some guys on our Discord that are NXT fans, and they said they were some major heels and they had major heel heat down in NXT, which I was unaware of. I logged in and said, who are these ladies and why are they getting such crazy heat? So I don't know. We'll see where they go, but that type of heat has me excited that the crowd is not bored by them. They're, we'll see if that heat carries up.
Yep. Joe Stradamus prediction.
Go ahead.
Fatal Influence won't be on TV in a month.
Okay.
Or they'll be broken up. JC Jane may, because I know from what I know of her, she's super talented and good. The other two, again,
I recognize
they could be great
her
too. I just don't really know them. Yeah. But I think as a group, within a month, they're gone.
So again, speaking of young wrestlers that the crowd is fully behind, whether hate or loving, the crowd absolutely loves Oba Femi. And I know you've got some serious thoughts on this, so I'm not even going to take up any of your time. Go ahead and I'll respond.
My goodness, Jeff. I'm a big fan of Oba Femi. I've been a fan of Oba Femi since this channel started at the very, very earliest, because I think I was talking about him in episode 1 or 2. I don't remember. And now we're on like 300. So it was a while ago. But my problem is this. So they build up Oba Femi, right? This monster, potentially retired Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Huge WrestleMania moment for him. Sky's the limit for this guy.
Yes.
His next match back, squash match against Grayson Waller. Now, I know some of that probably has to do with they're waiting for other feuds probably to end before they can restart him into a new feud.
Yes.
But I feel like there's got to be somebody better to at least make a somewhat engaging storyline. And I know, and we're going to talk about that next, but I know he's doing the Oba Femi Open Challenge thing coming up, which maybe that's going to lead to something. I don't know. But is it going to lead to an actual storyline match, or is it going to lead to just squash after squash after squash until Roman Reigns is ready, right? Or whoever.
Yeah. He even called out in his promo on Raw this week that until I need to do this because everybody else is tied up in a match. It's like the champions are tied up in matches. Trick Williams the U.S. champion doesn't want to do his open challenge anymore. Penta's wrestling Rusev. Like, he even called out specifically that I have nobody to go up against of any note right now.
Wouldn't it have been a better storyline? Actually, I can think of 2 better storylines. At least more shocking, maybe not better, but at least more shocking. Instead of doing these squash matches, being who he is, and he's on this huge thing, just retired Brock Lesnar, insert himself into one of these matches and just squash both people, right? Yeah. Or whatever, just insert himself into one of the title matches.
Yeah. When Grayson Waller came out last night, or they had that interaction
which
backstage.
Because I do like Grayson Waller too.
And they set up that match. Like, I texted you. I was like, really? We're going to do another Oba Femi squash match? We were done with this 2 months ago when he entered in. You don't go backwards in storytelling. I was expecting somebody to come out and interfere with that match. I didn't know who. But I in my head, they can't be just going out and letting him squash Grayson Waller and walk out of the ring. There's got to be something more. There did end up being something more. There ended up being, as you mentioned, the Oba Femi Open Challenge.
It's hard to say.
But yeah, I expected something more to come out of that match. I don't know who I wanted to interfere, but I expected something to come out of that, and I was.
What about Oba Femi versus Aleister Black storyline until?
Yes.
A bigger, at least it wouldn't be, it's not like a jobber guy, which unfortunately Grayson Waller is right now. He shouldn't be, but right now that's how they're using him.
Yeah, Aleister Black would have been a change. Oba Femi's been up against, Kit Wilson, but other large guys like Rusev and Brock Lesnar that he could go strength to strength with. Like, Aleister Black would have been a good challenge because he's not going to try and out-strengthen Oba Femi.
Right, and he's supposed to be like this striker, and which I guess he is in real life, but they're trying to play to that in
It would have made a great match of different skills and or in-ring talent.
And it would be fine. Have Oba Femi win it, whatever, but it doesn't need to be a squash. At least he's doing something.
Right, yes. So,
put him up against Royce Keys.
But then do they want to kill Royce Keys right off that bat?
Yeah, I mean, just double DQ it. No, make them a tag team for now.
Yeah, that do something with it. But yeah, you mentioned at the end of the match with Grayson Waller, he issued the Oba Femi Open Challenge. This is an ongoing storyline, and it was interesting on SmackDown to have the U.S. Championship Open Challenge because that goes back 20 years with John Cena. And then he reissued it last year. Sami Zayn carried it on. Carmelo Hayes carried it on. Dragunov carried it on. And then Trick Williams, per character, said nobody. I don't want to fight nobodies. I want to fight people with names, which again, it fits Trick Williams' character, but it's been ongoing. And then Becky Lynch comes out on the exact same night, and even before Oba Femi, and issues a Women's Intercontinental Championship Open Challenge, only to be followed up by Brock Lesnar later in the same night, issuing the same Open Challenge. Oba Femi, I'm sorry. Why are we having so many open challenges? Like, is this just bad storytelling?
Yeah, I think it's a lack of creative, in my opinion, right? I think they don't know what to do, right? You got to keep these people on TV because they're your biggest stars, but they don't really have anything. And I know the Becky Lynch one kind of led to Io Sky, and maybe they're trying to turn that into a storyline, but...
Well, that was just continuing the
that just continued the
Asuka storyline. And that was a good match to have on Raw. That was a PLE level match to have on Raw. Becky Lynch and Io Sky. But again, are they going to continue that, or was that a one-night thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, so Brock, Oba said he's going to have next week. He's going to have the Open Challenge, so his will start next week. Where do you see that going? Who do you see coming out and challenging him, if anybody?
Unless they have something planned, unless maybe they signed somebody or they have some kind of surprise. But I mean, if it's just going to be, Kit Wilson every week or The Miz every week or something like that. Yeah, just take him off TV then at this point, because I don't think that's really helping him.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it, and the only thing I've got a suggestion. I don't know if it really builds anything. It's not going to lead to any matches. But if you want to build the legacy or the fear of Oba Femi, he just retired. Brock Lesnar, the biggest beast in all of wrestling history. Have him come out next Monday, issue the Open Challenge, and nobody respond. And him calling out the entire locker room, and then maybe they have a match set up afterwards, and they try and start the match, and Oba Femi just destroys both of those wrestlers because he's frustrated that nobody will challenge him. I mean, at least at that point, they're killing time and not putting him in useless squash match after squash match. I can't talk today. But I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that would kind of make sense, because, again, I don't want to see him squash people for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't either. I see what you're saying. I know you mentioned it to me yesterday, and I was trying to kind of think about what you were saying, but it makes sense. People are just too afraid. Yeah. So, sure, maybe that's what they're going to do with it. But then, I mean, where do you really go? Does he just, from there, he's just so pissed off that nobody will challenge him, so he just starts beating up everybody? He just doesn't leave the ring. He just interferes in every match, which would be funny, but that would be more...
That's more of a heel move than a face move. But if you start... Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see where they go. I did not like the Open Challenge. I wanted to see something at the end of that match, like somebody interfere, somebody challenge Oba Femi. I was surprised by an Open Challenge. I was disappointed by an Open Challenge. But again, I'm the optimist in the group. I'm going to try and keep my fingers crossed that Triple H knows what he's doing, or maybe Oba Femi or somebody knows what they're doing, and we'll get a good payoff next week.
Yeah, but you know what this reminds me of? All these Open Challenges. That's the new everybody wears a ski mask thing. That was happening weeks ago, and now everyone has Open Challenges instead.
Everybody wears a ski mask or a gingerbread mask.
Yeah, and now in 2 months, everyone will be doing Open Challenges wearing ski masks. Yeah, something stupid.
Alrighty. So we're a week and a half away from Backlash. They announced a few matches this last week. We've got finally the payoff. We've got Io Sky versus Asuka happening. We've got Roman Reigns. He accepted Jacob Fatu's challenge last night. And then we've got the actual Backlash from WrestleMania of Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. So which of these matches are you most excited for? And what else do you hope to see get added to the card? I think we could expect at least one more, if not two more matches.
I guess for me, I'm going to say the Reigns and Fatu match. I like both guys. My biggest concern there is who's the heel and who's the face. Generally, face versus face matches don't go over super well because the crowd's going to get behind one of the guys regardless. And then the other guy kind of has to act like a heel. So it kind of it's kind of weird in that way. And I'm guessing in this situation, Roman Reigns is probably going to have the overall, crowd support. But Fatu against anybody else, Fatu's a major face.
Yeah.
It's just this match is kind of weird for him because it's Roman Reigns. But I'm going to guess this is going to be Fatu's going to lose. I don't see them pulling the strap off of Reigns so soon. And then he's going to join the Bloodline.
Yeah, I would like to see him join the Bloodline. I don't know that they have him lose, and right off the bat, what could happen. And I was really caught off guard that they brought Solo into their debate last night. Fatu at the end of the debate ended up attacking Roman and using the chokehold that Umaga used to use. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but that's kind of a heelish type move. So is he playing the gray character? Is he going back heel? Is he going to rejoin Solo in that bloodline? Is Solo going to interfere and maybe this match ends in a DQ and they build up a bigger match at SummerSlam? They can go a bunch of different ways here, but I mean, I like you would like to see him acknowledge Roman for now, rebuild a bigger, stronger, better bloodline, and then build up maybe a bigger clash down the line where Jacob eventually wins. Because eventually we're going to the tribal chief's going to have to go down eventually. Yeah. And I think of all the wrestlers around right now in the bloodline, Jacob is probably the best suited to be the next head of the table.
I mean, think about that. What about kind of tied into our last thing? No one will come out and challenge Oba Femi. After Backlash, Jacob Fatu comes out to challenge Oba Femi. Something like that. I don't know.
That would be a great rivalry, but again, who in the long run wins and loses there. But yes, that would be a match I definitely want to see.
Yeah, but at least it'd be two people that people care about.
So speaking of a match I could see, or a match I want to see them building toward, is I think they'll probably do the tag team champions weren't defended at Royal WrestleMania. And we've had the return of the Street Profits. So I could see the Street Profits first division for the tag team championships.
So much for having to build your way up, huh?
Yeah. I mean, they've got a legacy there, don't they?
They also just fired all their other tag teams.
So yeah. Any match you want to see?
Trying to think of what else was hinted at. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I like the Roman Reigns Fatu match.
Right.
I do like that. Maybe throw the Usos somewhere. I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up our show with our final thoughts here, Joe. Anything you want to say before I get started?
No, you go first. Go ahead.
Alrighty.
I'll let you know when your time's up.
So we've talked about inconsistent storylines in the last few weeks, episodes. Kairi Sane got cut before they completely wrapped up that storyline. Io Sky and Asuka are going to wrestle, but Asuka's treatment of Kairi Sane was the catalyst of that storyline, and now it's gone.
Yep.
Again, we can go back even further that Jacob Fatu got attacked. Nobody ever figured out who that was. Jey Uso got attacked. Nobody ever figured out who that was. Pat McAfee stuck his nose in the business. All these things were storylines isn't making sense. And you know what storyline bugs me the most? Or inconsistent storytelling? The El Grande versus El Grande mask versus mask match happening at AAA. We've got the OG El Grande Americano is a face on WWE, and the newer, taller El Grande Americano is the heel. But when you watch AAA, the newer El Grande is the face, and the OG is the heel. That just, as you mentioned, we were debating this earlier, laughing about this earlier. That'd be like someone like Jacob Fatu being a heel on Raw and a face on SmackDown. And that's just, why not have consistent storytelling across your brands? And if one of them is legitimately over in AAA, the US fans don't really seem to care about this rivalry. Just stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mentioned this on the last week. But again, my MVP is going to be Logan Paul again. I hate being a Logan Paul mark like this, but he was fantastic again. He has gotten so good now. And when he came out, when Joe Hendry made that music video, which first off didn't make any sense to me. Why is he calling out Logan Paul? They have zero history together. But whatever. But then when Logan Paul came out screaming like a spoiled brat or whatever he was doing and stuff, I thought that was great. I think Logan Paul has come such a long way with his character development. he's always been a good wrestler.
Yes.
He's only improved every time he's out there. So he's a great wrestler. But I guess what was holding him back for me is he was just kind of relying on his Logan Paul heat that he gets in real life.
And he was very bad in promos, and he kind of went back to, he kind of used a lot of the same sayings, or he just wasn't very good on promos. And I agree, like last night, he looked like he was legitimately angry.
Yeah.
He looked like he was completely caught off guard, that wasn't planned, and he was legitimately storming in and stomping around and throwing a temper tantrum. I looked over at my wife and kids I was watching wrestling with last night, and I was like, I've completely changed my outlook on Logan Paul. He's a top 5 wrestler right now.
Yeah, I agree.
With everything, with the look, with the mic skills, with the wrestling, everything, the in ring, outer ring, he's a top 5 wrestler right now.
I think if he didn't have the outside stuff going on, the crowd would love him.
Yeah.
I think everyone, whatever his crypto stuff or whatever he has going on, that makes people not like him. And then people hear that people don't like him. So then if they don't know anything about him, they just boo him because that's what everyone else was doing.
Well, a lot of what they don't like about him is stuff he did 10, 15 years ago when he was a teenager trying to break into YouTube.
Well, you're right. That was that. But recently he's had a lot of more scammy type things.
Okay.
From what
I was
read,
unaware
I don't
of
know
that.
if he's actually done it. I have no idea. But from what I've read, there's been some scammy things out there that he's been doing.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the politics and stuff you can not like or like, but again, that's all over everywhere.
Yep.
But I think a lot of, again, my hatred of him and the people that I talk to about him, it's more just the stupid antics he used to get up to when he started his YouTube stuff. But he's moved beyond that. Again, he's a top-notch wrestler, and I can see him definitely in the next year or two having one of the major belts.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, you've been calling for that for years. Again, since we started the channel, you were a lot more behind Logan Paul than I've been historically. So.
Yeah, and I don't even watch I watch some of his YouTube stuff now when he was doing some like trying to be a football player or whatever he was trying to do. But that's it. I don't watch his other stuff.
Yep.
But anyway,
all right, let's wrap up. You want to celebrate?
Let's celebrate.
Alrighty.
Recently we said we weren't going to do another one until we hit 750 subs. We're at like 7 million subs now.
7,000,001 to be exact. We got one more during this taping.
7,000,001 subs. No, we're at like what, 780 now?
780, I think we hit right before recording. So.
Yep. So we got ourselves our little Buka shot.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. This is for everybody out there. This is for you, Kyle. This is to my buddy Jeff over here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Joe. This was your great idea about a year or so ago.
And thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys in the next video. Woo. Thank you for watching another episode of Wrestle Stop. If you liked what you saw, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. You can reach us at any of the addresses on screen. And there's a couple extra videos here on the screen. If you liked what you saw, maybe you'll like one of these as well. Thanks for watching.